The subject of boundaries is a great place to start a conversation about self-defense, because sometimes a small boundary violation is a test run for a larger violation. Have you ever felt taken advantage of or continually disrespected? Maybe you felt that way because your boundaries weren't being respected. Boundary enforcement is at the heart of self-defense. So when it comes to defending ourselves, we are defending our boundaries. Our boundaries are determined by our values, and what we value, we will defend and protect. Our boundaries are our line in the sand. They are the limits of what we will allow to happen to us. And another aspect of boundaries is they allow or deny people access to us and determine what kind of access they have. Also, boundaries, like our values, are always changing and evolving. Boundaries aren't hard and permanent rules. As our values change, so do our boundaries. As our circumstances change, so do our boundaries. A hard rule might be, I never hug anybody, no matter what. A boundary says we may accept a hug from one person, but not another. We may accept a hug from a person at one time, but not another. Think of a boundary more like a garden gate rather than an immovable wall. You can open or close a gate to whom you choose and when you choose. It's all based on our value system and the circumstances we find ourselves in, not others' expectations and not the social norms. It's based on our values. So, after we establish those boundaries, we need to protect that garden gate. We protect what we value. We don't want malevolence to enter into our lives. And the only way a boundary is if it's enforceable. If a threat violates your boundaries and you do nothing, the threat will know that none of your boundaries are real, and that leaves us feeling violated and used. So how do we enforce our boundaries? How do we keep malevolent people from breaking through those gates? First, be a hard target. Have a strong presence and a confident demeanor. If you have a lifestyle that's intentional with goals, and if your actions and purpose are aligned with your values, then it's very difficult for someone to derail you. And then, if you also have surrounded yourself with a support system and people with similar values, you won't look like someone that's easy to control. It's also important to ask how we carry ourselves. Are you physically fit? Do you express yourself confidently? Are you focused? Are you projecting intentional body language to match the situation? A hard target means that you are a person that presents yourself as someone that should be respected and shouldn't be played with. Next, after you're a hard target, is use your voice. Most people can pick up on hints. Most can follow the social norms and know what's appropriate and inappropriate. And they can pick up on a vibe, but some people can't. So when they aren't getting the hint, use your voice. Clearly, respectfully, confidently communicate your boundaries. Articulate the boundary. Might go something like this. What you're doing makes me uncomfortable. These are things you talk about with your wife, not me. Hey, please don't call me after 8 p.m. If they are a good person with good intentions, they will immediately respond with an apology and change their behavior. However, if they dismiss your no and start to debate with you and try to get you to justify your no, then you've entered into a negotiation. And that's not boundary enforcement, that's a negotiation. Criminals, salespeople, and con men and manipulators are better negotiators than you and me, and you don't have to go there. They're trying to get us to play their game. We don't need to. You've been respectful towards them. They owe you that same respect in return. But let me be clear, if you don't like the way someone acts, you can just not spend time with that person without explanation. But if for some reason you have to be around that person, like it's a coworker or it's an old friend that you want the relationship to be right between you, then we may have to go to stage 2 or 3. If the violation persists, then we are at stage 3. Consequences. Continued violations must have penalties. People that value and respect you will respect your no. So it won't ever go to this level with people that respect you. And if they don't respect you and continue to violate your boundaries, there's also probably going to be pushback. They might talk trash about you. They might cause real problems for you because you said no. Be prepared for that pushback. But maintain your confidence and your focus. Remember, you have the right to say no. They also have the right to not like it. And I know, it's easy to say, oh, just say no. But really, saying no and enforcing boundaries is a very uncomfortable thing. And someone that's violating your boundary knows that. And they are banking on you to be uncomfortable and insecure, so insecure that you won't enforce them. You might have to ask if your boundaries are more important than their acceptance, or is their acceptance more important than your boundary? Maybe you've made yourself so dependent on someone else that your survival depends on their acceptance. If that's where you're at, then you'll probably allow boundary violations and feel taken advantage of. So do everything you can to live in a way where abusive people do not have any control or leverage over your life and can bully you into doing things that you don't want to do. Do whatever it takes to find your self-agency and your independence. All right, let's get back to stage 3, consequences. If they persist at violating that boundary after you clearly communicated the boundary, then you state the behavior and you state the consequence for that behavior. For example, if you touch me again, I'm going to ask you to leave. If you keep up that inappropriate talk, I'm going to speak with HR. If you keep acting rude, we can't hang out anymore. If the encroachment persists, you must follow through. You can't just keep restating the consequences if they continue. So sometimes a small boundary violation is a test run for a larger one. So state the consequence, but also be willing to deliver that consequence. In summary, you get to decide your boundaries. Live according to your values and be willing to defend the life that you love. Be a hard target. Be someone that people would respect and not play with. Use your voice clearly and respectfully. Expect pushback, and then establish the rules of engagement.